Hola, audiencia y bienvenidos. Hoy Cinema Club. I'm tonight's host, Jason Ishmael Echoes. And of course, I am joined by my they're illustrious panel of co-hosts, and Dandino Spizzi. I don't know, my words just aren't coming out the right way today. Um, and Marina, also known as Eat Love. I always get it wrong, Marina. Dignified couch potato, but sometimes it's like eat love something, right? Eat.
Watch, laugh, cry.
You always get it right. Okay, you always get it right. Um, so today we're reviewing the 1982 film Yola. It's a Turkish film, and it won the Palme d'Or in Cannes in 1982, and uh, it's based on a story about a group of men who are just recently released from prison, and they're on sort of a I forget what you call it, but like a just like a release program where they get to go home for like a week.
They're on leave.
They're on leave, which they get prison leave for some reason. Not sure why, but in this country they get prison leave. Um, doesn't work like that here in America. But they're on prison leave for a week to go visit their families and hang out and do whatever they got to do. It takes place right after the 1980 Turkish coup d'état. So like there's a new like government in power, and it's very authoritarian and very oppressive. And this is my first time seeing this film. So let's jump straight into first. Well, let me tell you guys why I picked it. I picked it simply because we had to pick a movie that was nominated for something the year that we were born. This is 1982. I'm an 80s baby. So it's and I was kind of excited about picking a movie that I've never seen from the year I was born. And this was also in the 1001 movies you should see before you die list from Time Magazine. So that's the only reason I've seen it. I mean, I've always seen it on the list, but I never seen it. So that's why I chose this film. So let's jump into first impressions. Dino, why don't you take it away, Bucko?
All right. First time I've seen this. Hadn't heard of this before. Very interesting. Uh, it definitely caught my attention from the get go. Just, I mean, talk about time capsule and the I didn't want to look into the movie too much, into the backstory of like the filming. Clearly, a lot of just shooting of the villages or on buses, not actors, I would imagine. But so that was very interesting. There was a quote at the very end. I don't know if you saw it. That's the where it thanked the different people that helped with the film and stuff like that. And it said they will live on as long as this movie exists. And I was like, wow, that's pretty dope. I enjoyed that. Some of the storylines, I was like, oh, like really rough being a woman, which we've seen other movies that take place in the same era, in the same region that deals with that, women kind of falling as possession, basically, right? When husband died, then the brother or whatever was like, now you're my wife or whatever, right? Because that's they weren't even saying law. That's the well. Then again, I mean, the translation felt a little off in the subtitles anyway. But yeah, so there, those are the most like shocking moments because I was you follow the prisoners and I thought like, oh, is this gonna be kind of funny? Is this, like every prisoner has their own kind of little shtick or whatever, but then there are some that look way too alike because those mustaches are so amazing. It's hard to pay attention. One guy had the three dots. Anyway, I know it's a first impression. I really enjoyed it as an experience, if that makes sense, that it's this time capsule and interesting to know that it actually won Palme d'Or because I would imagine you don't see these kind of movies even in 1982 and less now. Like it's almost a slice of life of just not filmmaking, but international filmmaking, and then a culture that most people know nothing about. So anyway, uh, yeah.
Okay, very cool first impression of Yol. Marina, why don't you go ahead and then I'll do mine.
All right, so yeah, definitely my first time watching. I'd never heard of it either. It's definitely not up my alley of like content, but it was kind of like there was an intrigue because I read that it had been banned when it had come out. And so that was kind of cool. It was like clearly this is a story that needs to be told, and I think that helped me because we all know I struggle with foreign films, especially ones that are aged and then this is like in a period of time and women are being mistreated. It was just everything everything that's really hard for me in one way or the other. It was all in
It
one.
wasn't in black and white though.
I know. Okay, all right, and I'll give you that 2 points. But I think knowing like, wow, this is something they didn't want the world to see. It just really kind of helped me push through and like pay attention and learn a little bit more about the cultures. I do agree with Dino, like it was an adjustment trying to figure out who was who sometimes, and it jumped a lot. Even though the way my attention span is, the jumping around is good for me. It keeps me like what's happening, but I did get lost a couple times. Even with like the women, some of their garments were similar and they're not showing their hair and they have like very similar features. So some at one point I was like, is that his wife or the is that the other person or the da, da, da? So it took me a second to kind of like figure out who was who and like kind of realize that it wasn't just one story. I didn't even notice at first that it was kind of jumping around too. So I thought I was just really, really lost. But eventually like I pulled in and I kind of figured it was like talking about different prisoners and their journeys and their choices and living in different parts of the area, and then it randomly snowed in one part. I don't I was just like, what's happening here? But yeah, it's just like I said, overall, some parts were hard, but it felt like I was supporting a cause of some sort by making sure I took as much of their heritage and knowledge about what prisoners go through there or then at least then I don't know, probably much hasn't changed, but like just it was just very interesting to kind of be a fly on the wall in their culture and in these people's journeys.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll say for my first impression, it's very similar to you guys. We kind of had the same sort of like visceral reaction to this thing. I think so. I have the only thing I have read about this movie. I just read the synopsis before I started watching it, and I also read that it was banned. So I was really intrigued to see, well, why was this thing banned? And about halfway through, I kind of figured it out. You know, like there's a coup happening in the country just a couple years before it. So this thing is probably very difficult to even make. You know, you probably have to make it kind of in secret, right? Because the government doesn't want this kind of stuff getting out to the world for sure. And, you know, obviously they banned it. So they didn't want the world to see it. So it's probably very important that it did get showcased in France so people could see what was happening to these people. You know, the movie just it's really good filmmaking, and I'll tell you why I thought that, because it feels very oppressive. I felt oppressed right along with these people. You know, everybody. It just felt like they were all in some kind of tragic sort. I mean, there's martial law happening when the movie starts, and it just feels like I just feel stifled, and I feel for everybody in the movie. And you know, people are rebelling against each other in this thing, and everything's so constrained and confined, and the culture is constrained and refined confined. It's very sad, and it's very hard to watch in that way. But like Dino said, for me it was like a time capsule as well. It's like, okay, this was a time like shortly before I was born, and even if I was born, I was a baby, so like I don't know what's going on. I don't know very much about Turkey or Turkey culture. So to see like these Kurdish people, you know, which I don't know a ton about their history either, you know, to see like how they lived and whatnot, and it kind of reminded me of like you know, the pictures that I've always seen, like that my dad has of like Yemen, which is sort of like regionally adjacent to this world as well. And it's like all the men with the mustaches and the 1980s stuff. Like these look like all the pictures from his photo album to me. I was like, this is bizarre. Yeah, so those were like my first impressions, man. I did like the movie. Like I like it as a film. It feels very guerrilla in a lot of ways. It feels like it was probably very difficult to shoot this thing. And it's kind of big in scope because of the locations. It feels like, and uh, I like the characters. I like the acting. I didn't really see any flaws in the acting and whatnot. I will say that, like, when it gets started, you're about to follow five guys, and there's one joke in the beginning, and then there's no more jokes after that. And it's like, oh man, like this thing got pretty dark, and it stayed dark. Like there's like really no light for anybody in this movie. And it was hard to tell these people apart with the mustaches and, like, Marina said, with the women's garbs on and whatnot. The only way that I was even able to tell that we were focusing on a different story or a different character was the location changes were like so dramatic. Like one's in a very sunny, shiny area, and then the other one's in a village, and then another one's in the snow. And it's like there was no other way for me to like know what was happening, honestly.
And then he
Um,
had a tattoo, right? Three
he
dot
had
tattoo, or was that
or like a
mole?
birthmark or something. Yeah.
Right. That I was like, I couldn't quite tell if that was birthmark or if that. I was like, tattoos wouldn't really. That would be so against their traditions. I feel like, but
Yeah.
so yeah. But then
Yeah,
the
that's
one
that's how
shaved.
I was
But
able to
then
get him.
yeah, I was like, and then we lose a guy. I think he might have just actually gotten. What if he actually did get picked up and didn't have his papers because they were acting and they're like, "We're taking you to prison," and then that was
Like
it.
he just kept the cameras rolling.
Yeah, and then we
Right.
just never see him again because
Yeah, that was sad too, because I mean, obviously he's a part of the script because he did make a big
yeah,
deal about his papers and how he didn't like his photo in his paper, and that's the one joke in the movie. And he's like, "I look like a murderer." Like, well, what did you do to go to jail? I murdered someone. And it's like, okay, I see who this guy is. And so
yeah,
yeah,
and then and he's even like, "Why are you guys laughing?"
yeah, he didn't
It's like,
get it.
yeah,
I thought the
and
movie was
he,
getting funny after that too, but yeah.
right, especially him, and he's the short guy. I'm like, oh man, even in other countries they do the whole kind of like tiny guy is like
Comic relief.
chipper, and he's got the bird and all that, and it's like my girl will understand, and I'm like, okay, never seen that. Clearly, it was a drop. Didn't even see the drop off of the bird. Like that was
Mhm.
just like story is gonzo.
Yeah, man, it's the movie's bizarre in a lot of ways like that. Not bizarre as in like surreal or anything, just bizarre culturally. And also like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've never lived in a country during a coup. It seems very scary. You lived in a country during a coup?
I was five.
Seems
I
very
mean,
scary.
I didn't understand the whole lot of it, but I have very small of the because they went down our street and everything, and then someone got killed like a block from where we were at. So I remember the next day walking by, there's like blood on the sidewalk, that kind of a man. And we would play soccer at night, and the ball would roll down that way, and I was goalie, and I had to run and get. Ooh, give me the anyway. But not to this level at all of what they were showing,
Did
but especially
you did this make you think of that experience when you were watching it?
a little bit. I mean, and also just like seeing the train. Not that we, again, the train was still, we still had a train like that running that but it was more touristy than anything at that point. Well, I don't know if that's a lie, but seeing a lot of the shots out in the middle of nowhere, dirt roads, all that, little tiny cottages and all that, that does remind me a little bit of as a kid when my dad working in the Ministry of Agriculture would take us whenever we had free time, and he would take us in the weekends to all these little towns in Paraguay and villages and even indigenous tribes and stuff like that that he had to work with. And so there was a little bit of that's where, it's like similar but different, if that makes sense, right? Because I mean, Paraguay being Catholic and all that, completely different, rules and stuff like that. So there was a little bit of that, of feeling like, oh wow, this is
taken me back a little bit with certain things of how it looked and stuff like that, and more like, and because being in a dictatorship and the fact that the dictatorship fell in '89, everything was in its own capsule. Paraguay and a lot of Latin American countries that were in dictatorships were closed off from the rest of the world. So like the technology and stuff like that in like the early '90s, to me, looking back and seeing what people were wearing, Ed Ruth almost looked like still the early '80s, if not like like the styles, everything was a little bit behind because they weren't allowing any really stuff coming in that could disrupt the image that the government in charge is wanting to create.
A lot of dictatorships in the 70s and 80s. Like, I would like to watch something about why that happened. And maybe I'm not right at all. Maybe there's always been dictatorships, but just feels like a lot of like really like globally present dictatorships happen
Well,
within those times.
there's the whole Latin America stuff.
I'm pretty
That
familiar with that stuff, but you know,
yeah,
the other international stuff, not so much.
yeah.
Um, so usually we ask about like favorite scenes and whatnot, but I don't want to ask you guys about favorite scenes. I was thinking about this because like there's some really powerful scenes in this thing that I think that we should touch. So I kind of want to know more about like how you guys felt about the two stories that are the most centered in this thing. So let's start off with like the story of the guy who's going back home. And he was a driver, and his brother-in-law wanted him to help with the jewelry heist, and he left him behind, and he got killed by the cops. I wanted to know how that story particular like made you guys feel, and how you felt about how it wrapped up, and all that kind of stuff. So, Marina, why don't you go ahead and take that one?
So out of like the two, that was probably the one that was the hardest for me to keep up with. Like, I don't even think it was a lot going on, and like the kids, and just like it was like really sad like stuff. But overall, like I felt really sad that like it's crazy. Like you wasn't even your idea, and now this whole family is like disowning you. You know what I mean? Like, and it's
Right.
just like it was, and then so many things spiraled after that, and
He's not the bad one per se.
yeah, I know.
Yes.
And so not only was he betrayed, I mean, he did the crime. So I was gonna say he was betrayed by the law, but because now he's the only one in prison for it. But now, like, yeah, like he's just like not supported by his wife's family at this point too. So again, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts, and I don't even know if I fully grasped everything that was happening on the train and things like that. Um, but yeah, overall, just yeah, it was definitely very moving and very sad and just tough. When that kid started crying, I was like, well, I cried a little bit, like not even fully, understanding everything. It's still like you just saw the pain in the kiddo.
So the part about that story that I missed was I missed the moment where I guess he goes to pick up his family, because they kind of like, hey, you're out of here,
Mm.
Bucko. You're a disgrace. We don't want to see you. If you want to take those kids, you can take them. And if your wife wants to go with you, fine. You take her with you too, bum. You know? And
Yeah.
like he really can't, to be honest with you, because he's like, I gotta go back
Right.
to prison in a week. I just came to see my family. But if he does take his family with him, he has to sort of go on the lam. He's got to run away from prison, and now he's a fugitive, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, one
it's a
of them
really
said they weren't going back, right? Or was
yeah.
that someone completely else?
Like that's the one where where he ends up with the brother's wife. I feel like, right? He was the
Oh,
one living in the more city area. Um,
oh. Um,
None of them went back, right? No.
the so so I think it was just like in the middle of the night or whatever. The wife got the kids and the one on the train. What was a little confusing to me, well, not confusing. I imagine it's just movie magic. The younger brother, the one that had the knife and was ready just to stab him. Everyone was like, I mean, the what is it? Public shaming, very big, right? That play, like people getting beat. I mean,
Mhm.
they were trying to do the nasty in the bathroom, and like people caught on it, and they were ready to beat them to death, basically.
They were really upset, and I was like, man, like there's a certain public shaming that would happen in today's culture,
Yeah,
at least in America,
yeah.
I can speak of. It wouldn't be like that. It would just be like mean looks. Maybe somebody might call you a nasty name or something, but
At this point, you go viral, and then all of a sudden you got your OnlyFans, and you're richer than the people that shamed you. I
right, there they go.
mean, sadly, that's where it's at. But anyway, but in seriousness, the younger brother like ended up getting on the train at another station, and time to me, that's why I'm like, they only had 1 week of leave, because this almost felt 2 to 3 weeks that they were out.
Well,
You
you're
know.
assuming he got on at another station. He could have just been hiding on the train.
No, it shows him getting on. I don't
Oh,
know where they
did I miss that?
at the very end, because then he's like going. It showed him like kind of jumping on the train, unless it was a flashback. Because then it shows keeps him kind of going down the aisle and looking, and that's the same rooms. I mean, the same stalls. No, what's the train? Caboose, whatever,
Box or
where the
whatever.
sheep is, and like bloop bloop bloop, and then yeah, the shots ring out and all that, and I was like, I thought they were gonna maybe be safe because they were already kind of like in jail, uh, caboose, you know. So that I felt, I don't, that one felt a little forced in the sense of the time, like maybe it was just an editing thing that I didn't realize that, yeah, that kid was already on the train from the beginning. But the way I saw it was they all found out, like, he's gone, she's gone, the kids are gone, how dare, and they all freak out, and then the kid grabs the gun and leaves after, so
Yeah.
to me the timeline just didn't seem to add up. But that's sad. That one I feel like didn't. To me, I feel like that kind of storyline, in one reason or another, has been done before. Of like whether or not they're gonna escape, or they decide they're going. Whether it's something like, I know this is gonna be a horrible comparison, in the sense of like, I can't wait for all the commentaries on there, but like a Carlito's Way or something, right? Or other movies where they decide to pack up and leave, or they're gonna get away from that life, or that's what it was seeming like. They just wanted to be with each other. They just wanted to, love, if you will. But nah, you can escape it, and they all end up getting killed except the little kid. And so
No one
that
can
I
escape. That's the brutality of the whole movie. I thought like nobody was able to escape
right,
this fate. Like even the people who were like doing like, let's say, the abusing, I mean,
yeah,
they're acting out as a part of the culture as well. And it's like you guys are also victims because you feel the need that you have to victimize someone else, or you're so ashamed that they snuck off to the bathroom, or you're so ashamed that he left the brother behind, and or it's going to bring shame to you with the rest of the community. And like everyone, like you said, this honor is a big thing, but they're all victims to their own, honor, which is like ego in itself. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's wild.
And they
Tradition.
even brought up like gossiping being a thing of town, and it's like, you guys. But I mean, clearly, again, it's a tradition thing. It's different culture.
And there's pros and
Um,
cons to tradition. Like there's pros of like having a standard for your community and things like that. But when it starts to like get to a point where people are hurt and it's not doing anything, yeah, they probably were more ashamed that their son was involved more so than they cared that that guy was involved. And it's like you probably wanted to like, be like, oh, it's his fault, not our
yeah.
son. We didn't raise this guy. Like I just so quick to drop, even like in the other story, just so quick to be like, that's no daughter of ours anymore. And like just so like, nope, doesn't go perfectly. Not a part of our.
Like they didn't care that she was like separated and out in the wilderness, essentially, and being held captive. She was kidnapped by that man's family.
Mhm.
and the other story. So let's just dive into that one as well, because to me, like that's the centerpiece of the movie.
Yeah. Can we wait for that one? Because that one to me is more of all the ones. That to me felt the most clear.
Yeah.
I'm the modern one, the one that stays in the city, that is engaged apparently, or he's like, you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna talk to men, you're not gonna laugh at men, you're not gonna do this, blah blah blah. And she's like, oh, you did that so eloquent. Like, did you learn that in jail? And then there are the two older ladies, and I'm like, that storyline had me completely. I felt very confused because I'm like, who? Wait, what? What's the age difference here? She looked really young. He kind of didn't want. Was that someone else's like betrothed that then he ended up with? And then he was kind of like, I can't deal with all this shit, and he goes to the brothel. And then I guess the funny part, the joke, there was one, is like, not number
right.
4, and you think that it's because she was a bigger lady or whatever. It's like, what do you want number 4? And it's like, that's my prison cell number, and I don't want that. I don't like it in prison, and I don't even want to like it in here or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a little bit of a humor.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I fucking hate this leave. I'm going back. Oh, was he the one that said that he wasn't gonna go back? I want to say it was, right? The one that said, I'm not going back. I think it was like, now I'm engaged. Right? So that's one guy. One guy did all those things.
Yeah. He got engaged, but then I feel like he couldn't marry her because then his brother died, and then like you have to marry the widow.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
No, is that a different the one that was then in the village, or a different one?
The one, I thought so, right? Yeah, the one that like was threatening his fiance or whatever. I thought that's where I was confused, because I feel like he was part in the village sometimes and in the city sometimes.
Right.
But maybe
when at the end, when the truck came and it had all the dead people that had killed in the border. Is that the same story as the city one?
Yeah.
And there's the girl that was standing on the roof and kept doing eyes with him was the same girl that was herding sheep and kind of like sitting on the side of the hill looking at him. That one.
I think so. And so yeah, so I don't, so maybe there's 3 women involved, because I don't feel like the herding sheep girl was the same girl that he was like yelling at and saying that you have to like you can't like talk to men and blah 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 blah. And then there's the sheep girl that he was like attracted to from a distance, and then the girl he ends up with is his brother's widow.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the part that was the most confusing to me.
That's the thing is that they were attracted to each other, but he has to be a part of this honor system.
Yeah.
So he can't even really be with the woman that he wants. He has to take care of the family.
It's so crazy. Oh man.
And that's why I'm going back to jail.
Yeah, that is weird though. I didn't even know that was, or if it's just in this movie, or if that's a thing somewhere that like.
It explained it in the subtitles a little bit at the very beginning, that it was a work release kind of thing, I guess, that, and it was on an island, right? It was its own separate thing, it felt like, or a smaller island
waterfront for sure. 'Cause I remember being like that cool prison on the beach, but I don't know if it was a
It was definitely
big
the
lake,
water.
maybe, sure. I don't know.
And they had to take a ship back to land too.
Thank you for taking that stroll with me in that kind of storyline, that I was like, I think this is the same guy, but it could be 2 guys, and it's at least 3 women, but it could be 4 women. And I was like, oh, there's the one guy in crutches. I've only seen one guy in crutches through the whole movie, so I know that's the guy in crutches, and there isn't another one. So stuff like that is what I was struggling with, trying to keep up at times. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, now we can go into probably the most depressing storyline, I would imagine.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
the one that's more or less the centerpiece of the movie, I feel. I mean, it's the box cover of the movie.
Yeah.
The box cover kind of ruins what ends up happening, the turnaround for the character. And I kind of wish it didn't, but I guess it's sort of a bit of it is the best probably shot of the movie to kind of like, who these characters are. And I feel like they spend the most time with that story. Uh, I liked it a lot, man. I liked it a lot. And you see it coming, and I think it's the right move for like a storyteller. It's one of the only true redemptions I feel like that sort of happens in the movie. As bad as it is, it's still very tragic. But he has a turn of heart at the very end, of that event. Um, you know, yeah, that whole thing was rough because that girl is like, there's a lot going on there. Like he barely gets there on his own. His horse dies just to get him out into the wilderness, and he has
his
to go do an
brother's
honor
horse.
kill. Huh?
His brother's horse died.
His
Or
brother's
family.
or
Yeah.
brother-in-law.
Yeah.
That was his brother-in-law. So like both families want this girl dead. Let's just, put that out on the table right now. Everyone is so dishonored that this girl becomes a prostitute and she's just trying to feed her and her son, right? She's like, you weren't around. We don't have anything. We're trying to survive and we don't know. I'm getting thinner and skinnier and there's nothing. There's no food. And the whole family's dishonored at her. She's the problem. You know what I mean? And excuse me,
Pissed me off too. That pissed me off too because it's like you're judging her for going out and making money instead of dying, but why weren't you helping her? Like I know they had to make a story, but like that's so crazy. Like what? Like she wasn't doing it for fun. Like,
two different families.
Yeah.
Two different families. And nobody was helping her to survive, Yeah, it's all very wild. It's all very wild. And so they give him a weapon and they give him a horse and they say, it's a long way. It's going to be really hard to get there. And you got to go through the snow. So here's some extra coats to put on and good luck. And when you get there, you can go kill her. And if you don't want to do it, then my brother or the brother and father, it'll be our responsibility and we'll go do it, I guess. And in the meantime, his father and mother is basically holding her hostage. Like it's a lot.
Pain. Yeah.
She's like chained in the garage or in the barn or something. And it's like, this is a lot, man. And she's like been there for 8 months while you've been in jail. This is
Only
crazy.
eating bread and water.
And you guys had an extra room that she could have lived in, and maybe she wouldn't have done had to survive. Like, yeah. And it's crazy because, like, as far-fetched as it is kind of factual how, like, people put so much energy into judging you, but they put not enough energy into helping you. And it's just like, this is just on an extra level, probably in a community that, sees women as property. So, but it's just like, even in a modern place, I just feel like people are so quick to like immediately jump on the bandwagon to like be like witch, but like why weren't you helping? And
they feel like they own you, but not enough to take care of you or to help you. And so they want to do with that. But then when you do what you have to do to survive, then they're embarrassed by you, but not embarrassed that they weren't able to help at any point. Two separate fractions, two separate families. So all that was like, kind of like bizarre and kind of hard to I wouldn't say hard to process, but like, sort of emotional to process because this is like wild. But then when he takes her basically on that death march and you see it in his head, like it basically was a death march. Like he wasn't trying to get her back to the place. He knew she wasn't going to make it. She didn't have any snowshoes or nothing. It's like she's going to, and he kept replaying in his head, like, you walk her out there and then eventually she's going to get cold and she's going to fall asleep in the snow and that'll be that. But then when he sees his son go back, like he has like this change of heart, like, oh my God, that's my kid's mom and that's my wife and I got to do something. And I thought that was a really nice change of heart moment when he like put her on his back. And I was like, I saw it coming at that point. I'm like, he's gonna carry her. And I was like, I hope she makes it. But for me, as soon as she said, "I can't feel my hands anymore," like, oh snap, she's got frostbite. That's a wrap. She's about to die, yo. She's not making it back. And of course she did not. Uh, I guess I just gave more of a synopsis, but I guess all the feelings are there. It was all just very sad. But that
I,
last little bit was very poetic at the same time.
Yeah.
well, I felt how he dealt with the horse on the way there. I was like, oh, this is gonna come back. This is foreshadowing, and this is also, uh, how he was whipping the horse. He was even
That's
doing that
interesting. Did
to
you think
try
when
to
he
keep
went back
her.
to her, he was going to shoot her in the head or something?
No, but I think the reason why he decided to do that, which they kept rehearing the thing, is because the person said it's too cold. So I don't think he had it in him to kill her. So he was almost wanting her to freeze to death. He didn't have
Yeah.
it in him to kill her.
Right.
And so,
Because he could have killed her at any time.
and to not have shame and all that, then he was like, well, if we just go the trek through the snow and she doesn't dress up or even have the little flat, snow paddles, she's gonna die. And then, I mean, he's whipping her like he was whipping the horse, trying to get the horse to move, you know, and all that.
Yeah,
And
but that had like a change, really. That had like a quick sort of change because it's like, yeah, he's whipping her like he's whipping the horse. And like, okay, I saw that foreshadow. I was like, okay,
yeah,
he's whipping
yeah,
her.
yeah,
But then he tells
yeah.
the son to do it, and I was like, oh no, he's like, he doesn't want her to go to sleep. He's like trying to keep her blood
Right,
moving.
right, right. But it is but it is the same thing with the horses, to keep the horse moving, right?
Right.
Keep moving, right? Like it's you gotta keep moving, you gotta keep going. If you don't keep going, you're gonna die, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so it was, yeah, eerie, the comparison of and again, that's why possession, right? And just the actual rights that women have in certain cultures, right? That it's you know I can see why. I guess the guy who wrote the film was arrested, and I don't know. I mean, on Wikipedia, that's what it talks about. Also, that his assistant director basically had to finish directing the movie, and then the writer escaped prison to then go to Switzerland to
Oh, I
finish
didn't know that.
editing. Yeah, that's what it said. Like that's wild in itself.
So he had
That
to escape with the movie to finish it.
he was in jail and then he escaped the prison and had negatives and went to Switzerland
Oh, that story
and then
alone is worth you winning the Palme d'Or.
yeah.
I've never heard of anybody escaping prison to finish a movie. That's crazy.
Like everyone in the writers room would hate him. Like if you go to like a writers workshop or a networking thing, people like, yeah, it was hard, man. I was working 2 jobs trying to finish my script in my small 2x2 apartment in New York. He's like, yeah, I was in prison and I,
Right.
just so I could finish this.
I had to escape to another country.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Like, I mean, it also, so that's also a feeling that I had when I was watching it. I said it when we first opened, but this movie kind of like exemplifies like power of film, like in the power of art. And these dudes, like, I know this couldn't have been an easy movie to make for so many reasons. And then hearing, Dino tell us, that little factoid about how the movie got made, it's just like, wow, man, what people like endure to get their art out there, to get their story out there so that the rest of the world can see what's happening. Because listen, like our whole lives have gone by and we already admitted, like we've never seen this movie and we didn't know anything about the story or the Turkish coup or anything. And it's like, and then like Dino said, the last message is, it's like, this thing will endure. The people will live forever as long as this movie exists. And somehow we found it and we get to talk about something that happened like 40 some odd years ago. And I mean, who knows who's even still alive from this thing for real.
So this is crazy that I'm reading is So the film was part of it being banned in Turkey because of its negative portrayal of Turkey at the time, right?
Right.
And also the limited use of the Kurdish language, music, and culture, which forbidden at the time in Turkey.
They were
Also,
upset that it was limited use of their own music and language.
right. So, and in
That's
one
funny.
scene, the movie even calls the location of Omar's village Kurdistan. I don't know, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. And so one of the versions we saw online was Yol got released again in 2017 called Yol, the full version. But many of these controversial parts and scenes have been taken out to make the film suitable for release in Turkey.
Mm.
In order to be shown at the Turkish stand at Cannes 2017, the Kurdistan insert was removed. And so, I mean, critics there and everywhere is like, well, that kind of goes against the director wishes and calls censorship, you know. So basically, guys arrested for doing these kind of things. Movie is, is banned, and then they do a re-release of this movie that won all these awards or whatever, and to re-release it to take it back to the country where it's been banned, and the people had to flee that make the movie. They've gone and re-edited the movie. Not the people that made the movie. This other group of people have re-released now that movie and taken out all the stuff, which was the director's point of wanting to show in the movie.
So this makes me curious. If they took it out to sort of appease the international, market or the Turkish government, has that coup like stayed in effect? Like is that same sort of government or same sort of structure of that country still in place from the 1980s? I don't know, but I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, me too. I was saying, I wonder if it's better or not. You know what I mean? Like, especially like you said, we just finding out about this is so tough, man. So much going on in the world. You know?
So much has happened, and we don't know nothing. I feel like it's like the fact that this is such a huge thing that like altered the whole country and all these people's lives and their culture and their understanding of life. And these guys are saying like, and I've heard foreign men say this before from that region, like, oh, I dropped out of school in third grade, and it's like, okay. And I had a friend, and I remember she said her dad, left school in the fifth grade. And so it made me think of that. And they're from like Iran, which is like next door. I'm like, wow, man, like this is like crazy. Like, these people have these limited educations. And then you see like some of the most powerful stuff is almost National Geographic-ish in this thing with the kids smoking and passing cigarettes around. And it's like, this
And
is.
did he hand the cigarette to the kids? Because I know he had gotten a bunch of candy.
I was
But did
wondering, yeah, if he was giving them candy or just giving them cigarettes or just whatever he had. I didn't know.
I was telling my aunt, I was like, yeah, because I ended up having dinner with him and I hadn't finished the movie, and I was like, yeah, kind of telling like scenes that were popping up, and I was like, it's almost again slice of life because it's not all actors, so it's very also documentary. Like the shots in the train of there's the sheep there. I doubt they went and put a sheep in there. I'm sure they're going, can we shoot? Can we blah blah blah? But I was like, and kids just smoking cigarettes in the plaza, and
To me,
like,
that was
are
as
those?
heartbreaking as anything else, to be honest
And
with you. I know it's
I'm
a
like,
thing the world over, but just seeing those babies smoke cigarettes, it's just like, why?
that's what you do. What else you got to do? What else?
Right. Yeah, what else you got to do? Just have a cigarette.
And that's in throughout history in different parts, different cultures, right? That I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you do, right? You know,
Yeah. It's
uh,
it's crazy.
Yeah, cheap recreation. That's why a lot of stuff like that is popular in areas that aren't doing the best. Like, But they were tiny. They didn't look any more than 8 or 9 years old. Like,
Some younger. Some of them
yeah.
looked like they were 4.
Oh man, yeah.
It was rough. Yeah, man. So yeah, let's go ahead and I want to ask you guys about favorite characters, and not to like be racist or anything, but we already said they kind of all looked alike, and I think we covered a lot in the stories. Um, I will say that I thought the sheep herding girl was really pretty. I thought she was like very attractive. Um,
I think
let's
so. If yeah, yeah, she was. She had like fierce eyes.
yeah,
Like,
she had like those National Geographic eyes.
she never talked, right? It was all eye contact. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, really?
And she was the one kept giving him candy, right? Was that her? That just everyone like one candy, and she would take the ball away. One candy, take the
Yeah,
ball away,
she liked them.
and then just kept getting like she's like, you can take my candy jar if you know what I mean. And
Is that what she's saying? She's like, yeah,
I
have some more
mean,
candy, sweetie. That's for
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, so let's jump into final thoughts, you guys, about this movie Old.
Well, my final kind of aligns with my initial. It was kind of cool to learn even more stuff that Dino had brought up about it. But yeah, you definitely feel like you're supporting a story continuing to be told, right? Because like it's so many nations try to erase history and like create a new narrative. So even though, like I said, this isn't something I'll probably watch again, um, it's still kind of cool to just know it, and it's in my brain, and I could mention it to someone else if I'm ever talking to someone that is interested in history and be like, oh, have you ever heard of this story talking about this time? And like, yeah, I'm glad that it's still being spread and you found it to spread it some more.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'll do my final thought then. So I actually did really like this movie. I mean, obviously the subject matter is rough, but not all movies are meant to be like fluffy bubblegum things. Sometimes you got to learn something and experience something, and that's a part of the journey with art and movies, and that's definitely what we experienced this time. I'm glad I did find this movie, man, because this is one of those ones that would have been very easy to not find, and it's not even an easy movie to find. No distributor seems like they're touching it, right? So we sort of had to find this thing on the black web, as it seemed, what it felt like. Um, it's roughly subtitled, roughly dubbed, or not dubbed, but roughly subtitled. Like it didn't feel like it
Yeah.
was like perfect English or anything like that. Just enough for us
Broken
to like,
English.
yeah, broken English kinda, which was fine. Like once we got used to it, like,
Yeah.
oh, it just sounds like someone who doesn't know English that well is telling the story, which is fine.
And I'm fine with that. Instead
Yeah,
of, like it gives it. I'm totally getting your thing, but it gives it more authenticity of the time period.
yeah, I thought so too. So yeah, this is a period film, from a time, and it's international, so it's from a time that we wouldn't really recognize, or a country that we don't really know that much about. We admit to. So it's nice to learn about another culture. It's nice to learn about what's going on in another part of the world in another time, and in a time that's not that far away from us either. That's what I kept thinking about. Like this isn't that far away, man. And authoritarianism, it's not done in the world. You know what I mean? Like it's
Coming
still
back.
happening. And it's still going to happen probably. And then martial law, is happening for real, and it's a thing that's going to continue to happen. And you pray that you never have to experience it yourself. So prayers and thoughts to all the people who have to deal with it, who have dealt with it, and like the people who are traumatized for the rest of their lives because of it, or people who don't get to see a full life because of it. It's all harsh reality stuff, man. So that's what like kind of got me like a little in my throat about this movie. Would I recommend it to people? Yeah, I would recommend this to people. Absolutely. Like you should. I think people should seek it out. It's not a perfect film, but that's kind of what makes it beautiful to me. But it's a very ambitious film. Because these people who made this movie probably didn't have the best resources in the world, and they're probably carrying big cameras around, these regions in the 1980s. It's probably very rough. So
One
yeah,
camera.
shout out, huh?
Now I'm just carrying one camera.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, man. So, to make a production like this anywhere, let alone, in a place where you're probably hiding out from the government while you make it or lying about what it is while you make it. Um, would I watch it again? I don't know if I would watch it again. I think for me to watch it again, it would have to be like in an academic setting. Like I saw online that there have been some places like Harvard, showed it a while ago, and Q&As and whatnot. So if there was a possibility where there was a Q&A and maybe like somebody who worked on the film or someone who's an expert in like what happened, or was like an apprentice to the artist or something, something like that. Yeah, I think I would like to watch this again just to hear like what was going on. Like just I would like to sit at somebody's knees and let them tell me, what this thing is really about, and what's, the things that I don't know, like the cultural stuff. So yeah, in that regard, I would. Yeah, like I think I will be talking to people about this. Like, I ever talk to someone from Turkey or that region about what was going on with the coup. Like, I would ask them questions like, "What do you know? What do you remember? Did your parents tell you anything?" Like, I would like to learn more about this, to be honest with you. So yeah, for an educational piece, I do highly recommend it. Actually, not an easy watch, emotionally or even like physically, like trying to watch it, like and understand what's happening, but I feel like it was rewarding and worth it. So yeah.
I guess I'll go real quick. The adding to the, I would watch this again, kind of in a similar thing, or if it's being re-released somewhere. Now, I did also read that the re-release then got re-released again with redoing what the original director had. So like the stuff that was taken out or changed in the re-release in 2017 uh, got put back in to the cleaning up of the film. So I would be interested in watching that because I wonder if they for the 2017 one if they updated like the subtitles and stuff like that. If it maybe clearly watching it again might be easier to follow the characters, but um, it would be interesting to see if some of the dialogue is a little different and adds different meaning to some of their actions as well, right?
Right.
And maybe I don't know. There's more film for the Birdman. Well, there's always a Birdman in jail, right? It doesn't matter what country you get the Birdman.
It's always a Birdman in
Uh,
jail. That's a fact.
yeah, yeah. The last scene we saw of him is looking at doves or pigeons up at at the electrical line flying away while he's there. Anyway, that being said, I enjoyed the movie as again an experience, and I mean, I was trying to figure out how that horse came to its demise. If like it's 1980s, like a horse is a very useful tool also for where they were at. So I was like, is that real? Like I was just that was going through my mind of just
I didn't even
like,
consider it. It's really good.
huh?
It's a good question.
I was just like, you know what? Like I was like, I wonder what, it is also snowing. They weren't making the snow up. So it's like, did they find the horse? And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll just add this. Anyway, so much. It's definitely more so than watching this film again, kind of like you have a Q&A. It's like, yeah, I'd love to go and watch some interviews, maybe with the director or whoever was around and finding out more about the experience. But would I recommend this? Like, yeah, if it comes up of one way or another, whether it's Turkish cinema or just like unknown movies that are different, that deal with dictators, ships, and stuff like that, like regimes, very much back in vogue. So I would definitely be recommending this if it comes up in some way. But then again, it's a hard one to recommend because it's hard to find. So that's the
Right.
only sad part of it. But luckily, it's still out there. and that's, I guess, why physical media also matters, because if I already got edited once to take out things, which is the reason why I got, that goes to Huckleberry Finn and all these books that are like, take these chapters out, or take that character out, or take those words out, and then it's like, well, then it's not Huckleberry Finn.
Well, I will
So,
say that the movie is on YouTube, but
yeah,
there's no subtitles. So you're
right.
gonna have to know Kurdish or Kurd or Turkish or something.
Uh, put up your Google Translator. Just have that play, like listening to the movie,
Right.
and be like,
That would be
yeah,
so annoying. It would be so hard to follow. But yeah, hopefully, it looks like sometimes it's on Prime. It's just not ready right now. So
no,
maybe
maybe.
I'll back.
Interesting. It's not on Criterion. This, I feel, is like right up the alley of what
Yes.
Criterion would be having.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Criterion is trying to be diplomatic by not having it. You know what I mean? They don't want to be attacked and like have all their movies pulled off the shelves in Istanbul or
Maybe.
something. I don't
Mm, true.
know.
That
Okay, well, I guess
maybe
that
whoever owns the right.
right. I guess that wraps up our review of the film Yol. So I'm gonna just ask straight up. I don't know
Yeah.
who's what and what's who, but what do we got for us next week?
Thank you for asking. And whoa, it's my turn,
Okay.
apparently. And the movie that we're doing for Oscar nominated films of the year you were born, which is always an issue. I kind of finagle it, because it's like, is it the year I was born or the year that it was nominated that it actually, because it's always like 84, 85 season, 83, 84 season, so is it the Oscars that were held when you were born, or boom, boom, boom. I went with Purple Rain. So if you know what year Purple Rain came out, you know when I came out. Uh, literally. And yeah, I don't think I've ever actually watched the whole movie. Like, it's one of those that I might have seen it as a little kid and completely went over my head because, Prince. But I've definitely am excited to watch it.
Okay, I gotta ask, what was Purple Rain nominated for?
So, soundtrack and music, and that year they had best musical, and there
Mm.
was there were three best musical. It was the Purple Rain, a Muppets movie. I forget which one, but whatever Muppets movie was nominated as best musical, and then songwriter, which was who is the guy? Chris Christopherson. Chris
Mm.
Christopherson had a movie called Songwriter. So they
Okay.
had its own category. In the Oscars that year for Best Musical, and Purple Rain won Best Musical, but it also won some of the other regular music
Had no
awards.
clue. Purple Rain had an
No,
Oscar. No clue.
yeah, it has two.
Okay, that's great. All right.
All
Well,
right,
for me, Jason Ishmael Echo, Don Dinos Pacina, and Marina uh, eat.
you just get over with the names. We've only like just we're here and we'll be here next time.
Bye bye.
Bye everyone.